Hello, and welcome to the Healthcare Executive Insights podcast. My name is Elliot Sloan with the Macallan Group. Today, we are very excited to introduce our guest, Mr. Sabi Singh, who is the COO and hospital president at Moffitt Cancer Center, located in Tampa, Florida. Thanks so much for joining us today, Sabi.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
The pleasure is all ours. So let's start with an introduction. Tell us a little bit about your professional background.
Absolutely. So I am an engineer by training, and after doing operations research, I worked in the automotive industry for a few years, and then I switched to healthcare. And I would credit my wife for getting a job in Iowa. She's a professor, and I followed her. At that time, the University of Iowa was looking for somebody with my kind of background in Lean and Six Sigma to improve hospital operations. So I was the founding director of Operations Excellence Department at the University of Iowa. That's how I started my journey. Then I got additional responsibilities to improve clinical quality and safety, and then also got involved with classic hospital operations. And then in 2012, became the chief operating officer at the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics. And then last year, I decided to join the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida, as their EVP, COO, and hospital president. So in a nutshell, that's my journey.
Wow. It sounds like you have always had a knack for being a problem solver.
I enjoy problem solving, and I think it's much needed in healthcare. And I am glad that the field, in terms of adopting techniques like Lean and Six Sigma, is getting more popular. And we have now many experts who lend their expertise to improve the systems and processes to help our patients, their families, and our workforce to really achieve our missions.
Yeah, absolutely. We all know that health systems have a lot of challenges with inefficiencies. So any system would be very lucky to have a guy like you with your expertise.
Thank you. I think healthcare in general is moving in that direction. So I'm very happy about that.
That's wonderful. So tell us a little bit about Moffitt Cancer Center. We know it's a world-renowned facility for treating cancer patients. What else can you tell us?
Sure. So as a cancer center, we are organized around a single mission of preventing and curing cancer. So as such, we invest in clinical care to address the needs of patients today. But we also take every opportunity to constantly innovate and improve what we offer across the entire cancer continuum in the future. So by having our PhD scientists who work collaboratively with teams, with physicians, we gain tremendous insight very rapidly on where the opportunities are to advance care. We also make sure that our investigators have the latest technologies at their disposal. So Moffitt is one of the 53 National Cancer Institute designated comprehensive cancer centers in the US. This means that in addition to delivering high quality care, Moffitt has, basically extensive basic and clinical research effort, which is directed at finding new ways to predict and reduce the burden of cancer. And discover new pathways to make more effective ways to kill tumors, translate those findings into better ways to personalize treatments, and ensure that we are maximizing the impact of our work on the communities that we serve. So I'll probably maybe share a couple of examples.
Yeah, please.
Maybe two examples illustrate this point that I just talked about. So several years ago, Moffitt made a huge bet on immunotherapies treatment to cure cancer. These therapies supercharge the patient's own immune system to fight their cancer. There are a variety of strategies, including, cancer vaccines to initiate a response, monoclonal antibodies to augment a response, checkpoint inhibitors to take the brakes of a response, and modifying a patient's own immune cells to better mount a response. Moffitt is, a pioneer and a world leader in this latter strategy, known as the cellular immunotherapy. The most well-known of that is the CAR T cell, or the chimeric antigen receptor T cell therapy. So I think eliminating cancer health disparities is also a major focus of our ongoing effort at Moffitt. And with a designated associate center director who leads it, and a team that's focused on it, we place a heavy emphasis in reducing health disparities. And it's at the forefront of our overall strategy.
Wow. So talk to me about the research that you guys perform. How do you go about bringing the most advanced minds in cancer research to your facility to give you guys this competitive edge?
Yes. So, that's a great question. I think
we know everyone's struggling with recruiting top talent, especially in healthcare. So what are some effective ways you guys have been able to attract top tier scientists, providers, and surgeons?
Right. So I think that's a challenge across the board. So having a mission-driven culture is very important. So we have a simple and straightforward mission statement, and that is to contribute to the prevention and cure of cancer. So this is a mission that resonates with most people who have loved ones, friends, and even themselves who've been affected by this disease. When you talk, to people and walk the halls of the cancer center, you see this mission that, reflects the attitudes of the people who work there. And Moffitt has made a major effort in areas of diversity, including workforce diversity, as a way to ensure that we, reflect the communities that we serve, and support programs to train and educate underrepresented populations as a way to increase the opportunities across the board and bring talent to Moffitt. So Moffitt has made, really very focused efforts or concrete efforts to bring clinicians and researchers together so that they collectively work together to really come up with ways to address the challenges related to cancer care. So I think having that teamwork also brings the talent here. Absolutely. We've also made major strides in our wellness initiatives to encourage the right choices in the workplace and non-work related activities so that there's a good balance between work and home. And I think all those initiatives do help, in addition to the fact that we offer the latest technologies. We are one of the best places in terms of, the clinical trials. And all those are very important and appealing factors for scientists and for our physicians and talented workforce to come here and work for Moffitt.
Yeah, absolutely. The culture is so important. And, these talented providers and scientists, they can't be in it just for the compensation, right? You get into fighting cancer and treating cancer patients because you want to save lives at the end of the day. That's what you're there for. And so if you join a team in a facility that gives you the best possible chances of affecting and impacting as many lives as possible, that's probably the draw. And to be able to do that, the team needs to be so in tuned, right? Everyone needs to be very well on the same page, beating to the same drum. And the only way to foster that is with a strong culture.
Absolutely. And the strong culture is built because of the mission that is to prevent and cure cancer. So everybody is sort of, aligned to that mission statement. And that really helps.
Sure. So we hear people getting screened for cancer and they get horrible news that they have a late stage cancer. And you think, how is this possible? Why is this individual finding out that they have stage 3 cancer right now? Why does our country struggle so much with screenings? It seems like we're fighting cancer so late in the game when it's so much preventable to be fighting it early on. Why don't we screen earlier, and what needs to be done to turn this around?
That's a great question. And this is a challenge, again, across the board. There are many cancers for which we have early detection recommendations, such as mammographies for breast cancer, few different options for colon cancers via colonoscopy or annual FIT testing, PSA for prostate cancer. We have HPV, DNA, and PAP testing for cervical cancer. And now we also have low-dose CT for lung cancer. Some of these screening tools have been around for a long time, and we have pretty good uptake rates. But the challenge is getting people back year after year, which is how most of the screening must be done to be effective. And getting them year after year has been exacerbated by challenges such like COVID, right? So unfortunately, because of COVID, we are going to probably see an uptick of cancer diagnosis at a later stage. Fortunately, we have now newer screening tools for lung cancer, that is a low dose CT. And unfortunately, we still have only 6% of the eligible Americans that have been screened for this. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done. In addition, there are many lifestyle-related risk factors for cancers like, sedentary lifestyle, sun exposure, tobacco use. So this requires that we need to make some changes, the behavioral changes that need to be made. We know what works, but people, getting people to engage in the behaviors is not easy. And I think we can all relate to that. The science of behavior change is an active area of research at our center. In terms of what needs to be done to turn this around in the short term, this requires probably multiple strategies at different levels. For the patients, this often involves education or re-education, why prevention and screening is important. For providers, it is getting screening and recommended screening back on the radar, having provider, assess risk factors such as obesity and tobacco use routinely. That is really critical. At the system level, leveraging technologies via our EHR system, text-based reminders, and other strategies to keep screening on the radar is also very important. And equally important is access. I think that's critical. To reach all communities, centers must consider, the need for low or no-cost screenings, and also bringing screenings to broader communities, via different mechanism, whether it's satellite sites, mobile units that go to those communities, distribution of home-based testing, like FIT kits for colorectal cancer. These are all the tools that we can use. Yeah. And along these lines, it's important to have processes in place for those who test positive, then have a follow-up plan for those patients. These are all important factors.
Yeah, and I would also, another thing to think about is the payers, right? Why don't they get more involved? Why were they not reimbursing colonoscopies until you're 50 years old? That makes no sense. They just moved it to 45, but still, why not earlier?
Right. I think these are all the macro factors that we need to take into account as a healthcare system in this country. There are so many, I believe, issues at a policy level and also at local community level or regional level that need to be addressed, and it requires a teamwork among payers, providers, patients, advocacy groups to really come up with ways that help address, the patient's needs and the communities that we serve. I think those are some of the key areas that we need to look at going into the future. I would also say that, there's basically, no one size fits all kind of a challenge here as well.
Yeah.
Education is important, but so is understanding, being responsive to the culture, beliefs, fears of those that we serve, right?
Yeah.
As such, being in tune with the community needs, priorities, and partners is really essential to having an effective strategy to improve screening. So knowing your communities. I think these are all important factors to consider as we move forward.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more that it needs to be tackled from all angles because there's so many gaps in getting the right care to the right people at the right time. And it's bigger than that. It's not even, getting the screenings out into the communities. It's not even getting the payers to reimburse and be more upfront with providing resources to their patients that they, are their policyholders. Encouraging people to get more screenings, even on a payer level, because they're the ones who have to pay the bills of very expensive cancer treatment programs, right? So you would think they're the most incentivized to try to get preventative programs in place. If anyone has the most skin in the game, it's really the payers to try to, catch these cancers as early as possible. But then you also think about, what about everything that we've been trained to put into our bodies for so long? Cigarettes, you now hear New Zealand is banning cigarettes completely for anyone born after 2008. So they're trying to weave them out completely as a society. Sure. You hear all these studies of McDonald's and Chipotle having all these crazy chemicals in their in their food. And then you hear about groceries coming from the grocery store with all their treatments and chemicals. Like, where do we start back at the actual root of the problem of what we're putting into our body and put a closer microscope under the corporations that are telling us it's all good, just keep doing it?
Right. And I think that is, we talked briefly about, the science of behavioral changes, right? Which is hard to do, but education and keeping that at the center of, right from the start with the children, with about the right choices and about healthy lifestyle, that's very important, right? Because that in the long run helps reduce all these risks. And at a cancer center level, let's say at the Moffitt, we certainly need to do a better job of screening for those cancers for which screening is available. Even when we talk about like cancer like breast cancer, and that's been there for a long time now, only about 78% of the eligible women are getting that screening done. Even for colorectal cancer, it's only about 70% of the patient population who needs to get screening done are actually getting that screening. And for lung cancer, it's 6%. So, but these are averages, right? And the ranges vary considerably which zip code do you live in. And it depends upon, the race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, insurance coverage, what we just talked about, or lack thereof. And quite frankly, I think it also depends upon the level of engagement by our primary care physicians and providers. So while various screenings are often covered by insurers, this needs to be, I think, universal. And we need to be able to screen regardless of insurance status. We also need to make sure screening is more accessible through what we earlier talked about, like mobile units, so that we can go to the areas where people live and the communities that we serve. I think those can be very effective tools if we deploy them in a proper fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's got to be something where you can bring it to the communities. You have companies that you see that can do like the at-home screenings for colonoscopies. You would think insurance companies would just send every patient of theirs at 40 or 35, in my opinion, that shows up in the mail, just like they, offer a annual visit for a wellness visit at your family medicine doctor. That should be a part of these annual requirements that they should cover.
Right. So I think that prevention and screening, I think that has to take precedence overall at a macro level for to really make a dent with the cancer as a disease. And in many ways, the cures are helping, right? So many cancer that we could not cure before, we are curing those. In many cases, it's becoming more of a chronic condition. But prevention and screening are our best tools to really make a mark, holistically, a mark on the overall society.
Yeah, I think about it often. My mother was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2005 and unfortunately had a long battle, and she passed away in 2009. And I'm always thinking to myself, what could I have done differently? If we took her to another facility that specialized only in cancer treatments, would she had a better outcome? This was back in 2009. I know technology has advanced quite a bit from 10 years ago or more, but it's something that I think a lot of people who are dealing with this with the loved one are always thinking is, how different can treatments be at this facility versus this facility? Are the technologies comparable? Are the plan of actions comparable, or is it very big gaps in the industry?
So, Elliot, I'm sorry to hear about your mother's and the experience. I'm sure she got very good care at the facility that she was at. Now, I do believe that it matters greatly where you go first. So cancer centers such as, the comprehensive cancer centers, NCI designated comprehensive cancer centers, they have the expertise, they have the technologies, they have the specialists and subspecialists who can go into, the molecular differentiation and can really discuss personalized medicine or have clinical trials, unique clinical trials to that cancer center, or even industry-sponsored clinical trials that can benefit patients. So I believe it does matter greatly, where you go first. And I think having those partnerships with the PCPs, where the patient can get involved with the right type of care from the get-go, I think is very important. But as such, the field is evolving. There are new therapies. There are, dissemination of information throughout, various cancer centers and hospitals. So overall, there is an improvement in quality. But for cutting edge and for the latest clinical trials, technologies, and expertise, cancer centers like Moffitt Cancer Center, which is NCI designated cancer center, they can be very beneficial for certain types of cancers.
Sure. Yeah. And let's talk about what is the next frontier for treatments of patients with cancer. Will we ever be able to say we can beat cancer?
Right. So that's a great question. And cancer is very complex. There was a book that was written several years ago, The Emperor of All Maladies, that kind of covered the history of cancer. And, you come to understand how complex it is. So as you know, cancer is not a single disease, but a group of diseases that have a common element where cells grow uncontrollably and spread to other parts of the body. So this illustrates why science is so important. Various cancers require very specific and targeted approaches, right? So understanding the structure and function of cells from which cancer originate, the biological pathways used for cancer cells to divide and spread, and what their Achilles heels will be in terms of a targeted agent based approach that's going to cure that cancer. Those are very important factors to consider. Some of the exciting frontiers for therapies are available at cancer centers like Moffitt through clinical trials that we just talked about, and testing novel drugs, surgical treatments or radiation therapies, the latest in technologies. Immunotherapy is another example. Immunotherapy is a treatment that uses a patient's own immune system to fight cancer by boosting or charging how the immune system works, so it can find and attack cancer cells.
Wow.
The cure of cancer happens every day in our center. Patients can resume their lives and have long-term, quality of life. Beyond what we discussed earlier, we are also making major investments in artificial intelligence and also machine learning to guide our efforts. So for most cancers, our efforts are dedicated to finding, those cures. Sometimes it's not necessary or even desirable for some cancers to go and have an overwhelming response. So I'll give you an example. Where Moffitt is recognized as a world leader is in the area of mathematical oncology. So this approach uses a range of, a wide range of mathematical models targeted at a very specific types of cancer treatment that determine, what's the best course to take.
Sure.
So in some cases, in some areas, we have found that outcomes are better when we intermittently kind of attack and suppress a cancer center rather than trying to overwhelm it or try to eradicate it. So in this way, in a sense, we are trying to transform the cancer into a more of a chronic disease and have a better quality of life. And another area is how our metabolism and diet and aging affect the response of a patient's tumor to the therapies that we have talked about. And using that information in a scientific way also keeps us at the forefront of, how to deliver latest treatments, how to advance science. So very fortunate to be part of this very exciting time in research and treatment in the cancer field.
Yeah, the future sounds bright for patients that are fighting cancer, especially if they end up at a facility like Moffitt Cancer Center. And it's interesting you mentioned that one of your leading research programs is the immunotherapies. Is that correct? So using your own body to fight the cancer. And, that's fascinating to me because we hear a lot about regenerative medicine and using your own body to fight, or to cure orthopedic or musculoskeletal related issues. I didn't know that you're also using it on the forefronts of cancer.
Absolutely. I think immunotherapy is, you take your own cells out, you modify those cells and insert them back, and they have receptors on those cells that go on to attack the cancer cells. So that's how that CAR-T therapy works. And as I said, Moffitt was one of the pioneers in leading that field.
It makes sense. Your body is your best healer.
Absolutely. And so we talked about so many things in addition to just the treatment, lifestyle, prevention, screening. These are all the things that make this field fascinating, right? Because as I said, it's not just one disease, it's multiple things that happen at the same time. So keeping a focus on all of those areas are eventually help us lead a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, you certainly have your work cut out for you, but you guys are impacting and changing and saving lives every single day. I don't know if there's a specialty of medicine that has a bigger challenge and obstacle in front of them each and every day. They show up at their facility to treat patients. So kudos to the work that you guys do. And thank you for pushing the needle and advancing the options for these patients.
Thank you. And thanks for your time today. And again, as I said, big strides are being made in this field, and very fortunate to be part of something that is really pushing the field of science and helping patients get the best treatment at the current time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to leave you with this question. If people out there are listening and they unfortunately are dealing with a loved one who may be looking for a cancer treatment facility, how challenging is it to find treatments at Moffitt, or what's the process?
Right. So if, someone would like to reach out to Moffitt, we do have 24/7 help in terms of reaching out and making a phone call, or the PCPs that they're working with can reach out to Moffitt. So we have different ways. So improving access is one of the areas that we are greatly focused on. And we have a lot of work that needs to be done on that front. But we are always ready to take care of the patients and provide the best treatment. And anytime, if somebody has questions, patients would like to know more about it, we have a great website. They can find a lot of information on the website. We have the 800 numbers that they can reach out anytime. And within, if they're not able to connect with a live agent, they'll definitely get a call back, and then they can start the follow-up discussion.
That's wonderful. So it's clear to say that you are accepting new patients and you're willing to help as many patients as you guys can.
Absolutely. That's our goal. That is our goal. That's our number one priority.
The doors are open at Moffitt Cancer Center.
The doors are open at Moffitt Cancer Center. Yes, absolutely.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time. I would love to follow up with you sometime next year to learn what's the latest and greatest on the forefronts of fighting cancer for your fighting cancers for your patients.
Look forward to connecting again. The field is changing every day, and there will be new things that we have learned by then. So look forward to connecting again. Thank you.
Yeah, I can imagine I could call you in a few months and there's already some new breakthroughs you guys are working on.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. And that's where, I credit our scientists and the team here. They're pushing the boundaries every day.
That's wonderful. Keep up the wonderful work and the great work. Thanks so much, Sabi. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Elliot. Happy holidays.